My name is Sunny and I'm a strategic futurist, and I'm going to talk to you for 2 minutes on something called the rules of the change game. So, change is the new norm, right? We have to change continuously to adapt and survive and grow, and yet 70% to 75% of all change programs fail. So we're missing something. This is a common statistic that you hear a lot. The problem is fundamentally that we don't actually understand the rules of the change game that we're trying to play. We understand the rules of many other games that we're trying to play: administration, delivery, product development, HR. There are rules to each of those games, things that you do, the way that you achieve particular kinds of results. But the change game has its own set of rules, and we actually don't understand what they are most of the time. So we apply the rules associated with the other elements of the business that we know and understand, administration, HR, development, product development, etc., to the game of change and think that they're going to work. And even though those things are important, they're not actually going to deliver change. So what are the rules of the game of change that you need to understand? Well, there's 3 components and they're moving, and I think of them a little bit like tumblers on a lock. You have the outcome, the vision that you're trying to accomplish. You have the governance structure, the relationships that are going to have to be created in order to deliver that vision. And then you have the core team, the people whose job it is to actually do that. And if you can get all 3 of those things together, you can achieve coherence, clarity, and creativity, to the extent that those 3 things are in balance. But invariably, as human beings, those 3 things are always falling out. At one point, outcomes is not as clear or as powerful as your governance structures, or your governance structures are good, but your core team is not so good. So you're continuously having to recalibrate those 3 elements to get the tumblers just right so that your safe can open. So, what are the 3 elements that you need to accomplish? Outcomes, core team, and governance. And I'll give you a little story. So a few weeks ago, I delivered a change program for a large public agency, and they had a very good team. They'd brought them into the room to work with me, and they had pretty good governance. They'd actually managed to shift the change process from the finance directorate across to a bespoke agency, essentially the customer engagement team, which is a more appropriate place to put it. They reported directly to the CEO. They had a multi-million-dollar change program lined up, digital transformation, HR, team training, a whole bunch of things. And what came out in the 3 days or the 2 days of the training program that we delivered was that actually the piece of the 3 that was missing was not governance and not core team, but it was the outcome they were trying to accomplish. Nobody there actually had agreed on what they were trying to deliver. Now, to some extent, somebody had a vision. In fact, it turns out that most of them had some kind of a vision. It's just that the things that they were looking forward to into the future were completely disparate. Some of the older people in the room had a vision of the future that was an extrapolation of what they'd done for the last 35 years, and understandably enough, some of the younger people had a vision of the future that included a great deal more social media and engagement and ownership into the community than that agency had ever considered accomplishing before. Without a clear vision, it was very obvious that they were never going to accomplish a change program, because they couldn't actually deeply agree on what it was they were trying to accomplish. And it became obvious at the end of the second day that they were really deeply disagreed about some of the things they were trying to accomplish. So we worked on getting that aligned, and at some point we did. We managed to get everybody to the place where they all agreed on a vision of what they were trying to accomplish that meant something to them personally. The problem then was, of course, we had now accomplished one of those 3 outcomes quite coherently, but the other 2 are no longer sufficient. The governance arrangements were no longer appropriate for the vision they were trying to accomplish and had to be tweaked a little bit. And most importantly of all, the people that should be on the team, it was suddenly obvious there were a whole bunch of people that should be on the team that weren't on the team, and some on the team that maybe shouldn't be on the team. So we had to go back to the drawing board with the executive and redefine some of the change program that we were engaged in. So the extent to which change is going to be possible is the extent to which you can keep all 3 of those plates in the air at any one time. But if you don't understand the fundamental components of the rules of the game of change, it doesn't actually matter how much work you do to try and accomplish change. It's not actually going to work. 3 elements: team, outcome, governance, which is just relationships. If you can get those 3 clear, you can start the process. I hope this helps.